Hey, it's Chef Joy here, today with some kitchen talk, and today we're going to talk about F.A.T.T.O.M. Now forgive me for all you extra large toms out there, I'm not talking about you specifically, I'm talking about the 6 main items that you know can cause contaminations inside of the kitchen. Basically that's food, acid, time, temperature, oxygen, and moisture. Basically when it comes to food, that pertains to like foods that are heavy in proteins or foods that are heavy in carbohydrates, like our animal products, that would be like high in proteins, beans, stuff like that. Those are very susceptible to gaining bacteria that can cause foodborne illness. And what a foodborne illness is basically, stomach problems, stomach flu. That's when you have to run to the bathroom, because it's coming out of either end or even worse, both ends. And trust me, you don't want that. It's not a good feeling. I'm speaking from experience. Also, too, with the food, you have to be careful of your food that are high in carbohydrates, because foods like your pastas, your breads, your rice, stuff like that are high in carbs also can grow bacteria and give you those virus-causing pathogens that you don't want. The next letter in F.A.T.T.O.M is A, and the A pertains to the acidity of food. When food becomes acid, as it starts to gain bacteria and starts to rot or spoil or whatever, it starts to become acid, and that acid isn't a good acid like what we'll find in like lemon or anything like that. It's acid that's gonna make your stomach do that not good rumbling, and that's what's gonna have going to the bathroom, having a stomach flu, and any other type of sickness, which can possibly lead to a hospital visit or even worse, death. The next letter is T, and depending on how you look at it or if you research it, check out my blog. And the next T is time. The time is basically like if you leave your food out for a long time, especially uncovered, or it has a longer chance to gain bacteria and gain those pathogens to make your food poisonous and harmful and not what you want to consume. The next T is temperature. That's now we getting the time. So those T's are pretty much interchangeable. I mean, it doesn't really matter which order you go in. You just need to remember these 6 items. So basically, it's temperature. When it comes to temperature, you want to remember that you want to have most of your food stored, above or below 40 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. They changed it again. When I was in culinary school, it was like 135, and then last I checked, the last time I took my food handlers, it was still like 135. But I googled it. Google say 140. 5 degrees. 5 degrees shouldn't hurt. So yeah, keep it keep it below 40 degrees and keep it above 140. And that should be pretty much good. If you keep it in between that temperature and you have it in between that temperature for a long time, now you're running the risk of growing bacteria, growing the chances of getting sick, and having a meal that tasted good but it's gonna make you feel horrible later. So now we get into the O. We almost finished with Tom, and the O is oxygen. Basically, this is like leaving your food out, pretty much anything it is, uncovered properly, and you're starting to get that air, that air and that oxygen in there. All type of bacteria and all type of germs and stuff is flowing through there, and depending on where you at, depending on how long it's been there, depending on the temperature, you throw in that oxygen, it's starting to maximize and starting to speed up. And the last thing that really causes the real rapid growth of bacteria and causes those very harmful pathogens when it comes to food poisoning is moisture. So like you really need to be careful about how you store your products. Like make sure you vacuum seal stuff that can be vacuum sealed, or even so with the moisture, you want to make sure that you don't leave your food like submerged in water or any type of excess liquids and stuff, especially when you first storing it away or storing it in like a cabinet or anything like that. You want to make sure all your cabinets are dried out. You need to follow and remember this F.A.T.T.O.M. That's the food. Make sure if your food is high in proteins or carbohydrates, you're very mindful of how you store it, how you handle it. Also the acidity, Make sure that you're paying attention to your food. Make sure it's not spoiled. Make sure it's not looking rotten or changing colors or anything like that. Make sure it's looking as fresh as possible, because you don't want anything acidic. That's not supposed to be acidic. It's messing with your stomach. Also remember the 2 T's if you're gonna end out fat, and if you're gonna jump into time, they're interchangeable. We have time and temperature. Remember, I didn't say too much earlier with the time. Basically, we have this thing in called the lag phase. So basically, you don't want to leave your food out for longer than 4 hours total. So that means like from the time you bring it to the store to the time you're prepping it to like the time you finally finish cooking it. You don't want to have that product being out for more than 4 hours. And I say total, and so you really kind of cutting yourself maybe 3 hours, because you don't really know how long it was sitting out before you even got it, from the store and everything like that. And outside of those, proper climate control measurements from where you're getting the produce or wherever you're getting your food from. Also too is the temperature. Remember to keep it out of the temperature danger zone, which is 40 degrees Fahrenheit to 140 to 140 Fahrenheit. So yeah, that's the TDZ. I forgot what the Celsius is, so my non-Americans forgive me, because pretty much everybody use Celsius except for America, because we do our own thing. America. No, I'm just playing. I don't know. We just don't use Celsius. Also, we have oxygen. Remember, you don't want to keep your food. Remember to wrap your food and seal it properly. You don't want to get too much oxygen in there. Once again, that's another thing that's going to cause those pathogens to make you sick and destroy your meal, no matter how good it tastes originally. And finally, that moisture. Keep the moisture out your food unless it belongs in there. When you store it, try to get out as much moisture as possible. Try and remember these 6 items. Every time you go in the kitchen, you see somebody else say, hey man, you remember F.A.T.T.O.M? Explain it to them. Make sure they doing everything to keep you and them safe. And yeah, just remember F.A.T.T.O.M, keep them out your kitchen. And because remember, a dish is always best served without a hospital visit. So hopefully this helps. I'll holler at you later, and peace out.